Good morning, everybody. Time for some coffee. Wanted to show you my little propane stove here. This is an old one, and it's a Trailblazer by Winchester. Propane stove, single burner propane stove. See that? These things here, just, if you've never seen one of these before, they're pretty cool. These pivot out for your pot stand. And then it has two legs that fold out like that. Oops. And then the third leg is actually your propane bottle. And you can use these fat propane cylinders or the skinny ones. It makes no difference. It still sets up exactly the same, like that. And then there we go. Does a pretty good job. This one here, I think it's from the 70s. Not sure. Might be the 60s, 70s, but it does a good job. I reconditioned it. This was all just kind of like galvanized steel or whatever, and I painted it. It was looking a little rough, but that's the original knob right there that it came with. And yeah, we'll get some coffee percolating here. This is a stainless steel, I forget the size, percolator, but of course I modified. I put a wooden handle. It had another handle, but it was the same width as the metal, so it still got hot. So I made this handle where the scales hang over a little bit, so when you grab it, when it's hot, you know, you don't get burnt. You're only touching wood when you grab it. And then I crudely welded on a couple tabs on the sides, on each side, so that it has a bail. It didn't come with that. And then you can hang it from the fire. Anyway, let's get that on there so I can get some coffee here. All right. All right. I think the percolator's done percolating the coffee. Let's see. Shut the propane stove off. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'll tell you what, folks, it's already hot out here. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's going to be another hot day. But our first priority today is we've got to run about 10 miles up the road to a store and get some off. Something, some kind of an insect repellent with DEET in it, because it's not the mosquitoes, because we haven't had any rain. It's the no-see-ums, the little biting midges, and they're horrendous. They were terrible last night. We actually went in the tent early and to get away from them. So we're gonna go to the store. We need to get some water. We went through a lot more water because of the heat yesterday too. So we're gonna run up to the store, get some water, get a gallon or so of water, and yeah, some off. I've got some insect repellent that I brought with me in these little pouches. Well, we tried it, and I don't know what the active ingredient is in it, but it does not work for these no-see-ums. So anyway, cheers. We'll see you after a while. So here is a shot of our sink setup that we have. It's one of those plastic collapsible sinks. It has a built-in drain in the bottom. And then the faucet I made, it clamps onto the picnic table. And it's just some plumbing parts that I put together and welded onto a bracket that is mounted to a clamp. And here's a little bit better view of it. Just commonly purchased parts you can get at a hardware store. And then I welded it to this little screw clamp here that clamps to the picnic table. And then you just hook your garden hose to it at your campsite, and then it swivels, and you could use it to rinse off your feet or your hands if you didn't want to use the sink, or you can pivot it over and use the sink to do dishes with. Yeah, it allows you to have both hands free. Love it. Okay, gonna do a little veg prep here for tonight's dinner. Here's another knife. This is my camp kitchen knife that I take camping with me. And it's kind of like a Serbian chef's knife I made with an ebony handle, nickel silver rivets, but it's thinner metal, so it slices really good. And on the menu tonight is Texas beef skillet. I do about half an onion here. Boy, I'm loving the new table height here we have here. I put extensions on the legs for this table that we use, and it brings this table up to counter height, like what you'd have in your kitchen at home. And it was really hurting my back, when I was using it. So yeah, you just coarsely chop the onions and peppers. Yeah, this knife doubles good as a bench scraper too. We're firing up the smokeless gasifier wood stove here, and we've got some oak in it, and then I add charcoal on top of that. And if you want to see how I made this, check out my gasifier smokeless wood stove video and see how I made this little stove. It worked great. Okay, we're getting ready to start the Texas beef skillet. And with Texas beef skillet, the first thing you need is a skillet, right? So here's my camping skillet. And I put all this stuff to the side. And here's a wooden handle I made for it. It's just a longer handle than the one that came with it. And it just screws in here. And I keep an old hot pad down there to protect it. And it may look bad, but that's seasoning. It's not. It's actually, I seasoned it with oil. I found a video. These aluminum pans, this is a very heavy aluminum pan, but everything sticks to it. And then I saw this video of a guy, and he said, you have to season your aluminum pans. And I had no idea. And ever since I did that, I mean, this thing is great, non-stick. It doesn't look the prettiest, but yeah, all that brown is just layers of oil where I heated it up and coated it with oil, and then heated it up and coated it with oil, and just layered it about 30 layers of oil, and makes it non-stick. I added that brass handle, so if it's real heavy, you got a lot of stuff in it, you've got another handle you can pick it up with. And then the lid, to make it more compact, I made this because it had a big knob here and it didn't fit as compact down flush in there, so I made that for the skillet. So yeah, get some ground beef going here. And 1 pound of ground beef, one homemade wooden spatula. Made this spatula out of teak. That way, just like in cast iron, you don't want to use metal or it takes your finish off. It's the same thing with aluminum. Okay, the ground beef's about done. So at this point, we're gonna toss in those veggies we diced up earlier and start getting those cooked up a little bit. Okay, while our stove is still on high, as you can see, our vegetables have lost their crisp and gotten a little translucent. The onions have gotten a little translucent. So at this point, I'm going to add some spices. And in here, what I have is cumin, chili powder, and some garlic powder that I put together. I'm going to add all of that. And then I'm going to add just not that much, just a little bit of salt. That's probably good right there. I'll get that mixed in. I should say too, I love cooking in cast iron. I cook in cast iron predominantly at home, but when you're camping, cast iron tends to get a little heavy, and therefore that's why I really love this aluminum skillet, especially now that I've got it to where things don't stick in it. You know, it does a pretty good job. This recipe here, what I'm making, this Texas beef skillet, it actually comes from an old friend of mine, and her name is Betty Crocker. Very old recipe from Betty Crocker. Now, at this point, I'm going to add a whole can of Rotel, diced tomatoes and green chilies. Now, when I make this at home, and we're not done yet, we still have some more to go. When I make this at home, I'll use diced tomatoes, and you can get the small cans of green chilies, and I'll add those, and I think that's what the recipe originally calls for. But basically, Rotel's the same thing, and when you're camping, you like simplicity. So everything in one can, just stick it in there, and we'll just give that a good stir. Let that heat up for a few minutes while our stove's still on high. Well, it's kind of medium high now. I'm letting these coals cook down. We had a park ranger come by earlier, make sure we weren't using wood for our fire. I'm like, no, we're not using wood. That's actually hardwood charcoal. So because of this burn ban we're in, a little bit annoying, but it is what it is, and I understand. You know, everybody has a job to do. So yeah, we're being safe out here in the camping world. All right, now we'll move on to that. Okay, now we're going to add some water, and I just added about maybe 1 1/3 cup of water, and then I'm going to put in 2/3 of a cup of rice, and we'll get that all mixed together. We'll bring that all up to give it a little bit to get up to a boil. We're going to put the lid on, and we're going to let it simmer, and we'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. Stand by. Okay, after about 20 minutes, let's see what we have here. There we go. It's perfect. The rice is all cooked. And there's Texas beef skillet. Now what you can do with this, add some grated cheese, sour cream, creme fraiche if you're across the pond, and just, we like to eat it with corn chips. And that's Texas beef skillet. over the gasifier wood stove. All right. Okay, folks. While we still have a little daylight, I wanted to go ahead and film this. Uh, it's time to cook some dessert on the old vintage Aluma cooker. I'm guessing this thing's probably from the 80s, early 80s, late 70s, something like that. I've had this since probably like 1982, something like that. Very, very well used. And I did season this the same way I seasoned that skillet, with layers of oil, heated up, and kept layering it so it's nonstick. Although really never had too much of an issue with this, because the way you use one of these, now all the new ones I've seen are cast iron, a lot heavier than this, but you simply, now you can cook desserts, dinner, savory stuff in this. Some examples would be like a grilled cheese, grilled ham and cheese. You could make like pizza pockets in this. You could make, like we're going to do right now, is pies. And you just, butter your bread and you lay it in there. And then in this case, tonight, it's going to be cherry pie filling. Easy peasy. And there's obviously, we're not going to use all of this. There's going to be quite a bit left over. But you just scoop it in there. Oh, I got to tell you too, something we discovered years ago with this thing that's great. We had some crab cakes, blue crab cakes, and we took them with us camping, and they were in the cooler. They were frozen crab cakes, and they thawed out, and they were kind of mushy. And I thought, yeah, we could cook these in the skillet or whatever. We ended up putting them in this thing, this very same one. We put the crab cakes in there, closed it up, and those were the best crab cakes I think I ever made and ate. They came out nice and crispy on the outside, and that's it. Yep. And then you just put it in the fire. In this case, the gasifier wood stove, and we're going to set it there, and we'll check it and flip it. And yeah, if you had a fire go on in a fire pit, you just rake some coals over, and you set that thing right in the coals, and check it every once in a while. You just open it up, make sure it's not burning, until you get that nice brownness that you want to it. And then yeah, we'll cook these now, cook a couple pies now, and then we're going to wrap them in foil, and we'll just warm them up later on after we eat for dessert. Okay, folks, we're in the pie business. There we go. Look at that. Hopefully you can see it's starting to get dark on us here. But one thing to note, I should say, there we go. Now, how would that be with some ice cream? We don't have any ice cream, but that's going to be good just like that is. I wish you could smell this. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. I should point out, if you find one of these and you get one of these cookers like this, my bread was a little bit too small. I don't know if you can tell, but if you can find bread that's a little bit bigger than the square, then when you pinch it together, it kind of seals it up. And this bread was a little bit small. It kind of didn't overlap any, so it didn't really seal the pies up around the edges real good. It did on that one side there, but it's still going to be delicious. So, all right, we're going to go enjoy this. We'll see you later on.